Hey everybody, welcome into another episode right here, right now. Joined by Penguins head coach Dan Muse. I am Josh Getzoff. Coach, as always, appreciate your time, especially after this long trip that we just got in the books.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, great to have you on, and what a trip it was. 4 games, 4 wins. You go across a couple different time zones. You go to 2 different countries, and the Penguins find 4 different ways to win hockey games. What did you take away from that when you kind of look back on it with a little bit of time to reflect here?
Obviously, we're really happy with the road trip, and I think it was a lot of credit to the guys just finding different ways to win. I don't think any of those games, they all had different feels to them, but I thought it was consistent in the sense that guys came to work. I think it's overall, especially in those first 3 games, I think the kind of ebbs and flows we were really able to control, and even in the Vancouver game, I think just sometimes it's like you're just grinding it out there at the end and finding a way, these are all big points, and so I like. Obviously, you come off of there, really excited about the direction that the group is going in, and now it's just continuing to push here, moving forwards, and just working to continue to take steps. When you're winning things, that definitely helps, but I think even you go back during that a stretch in December where things weren't going our way. I think guys, they came to work each day, and they put in the time. And when it was time to practice, or with video, whatever it was, the focus level was high. And I think it's starting to become that mentality of it's no matter what, it's just you come back the next day and you put in the work and you find a way to get a little bit better, and that's what we want to have. And so it's definitely huge credit to the group in that sense. And I think it's now continuing as we've moved through this month, continue to build, continue to take steps. And obviously excited if where things are at today, but we also know that we gotta fight for every inch, and that's a good thing when you're playing really meaningful games, at this point in the season.
Obviously, we mentioned that the road trip was really successful and positive. Unfortunately, a bit of a negative coming out of it. As the team learned on Tuesday, Bryan is going to be suspended 3 games for the hit to Brock Besser at the end of the game. I know you spoke to the media after practice on Tuesday, but to ask you the exact same question and get an answer here for our platform, what was your reaction to that verdict coming down from the league?
I disagree with it. And I think it's Bryan Rust is a player who you know what you're going to get from him every day. The way he works, he plays the game the right way. He does anything he can to help his team win. But he's not like he's a clean player. You look at you look at his track record as a player, and the number of years he's played, the number of games that he's played, he's been consistent with showing that. He plays it hard, but he also plays it the right way. And so with that, you hate to see somebody get hurt. You do. But I disagree with the decision. The league's got a tough job. It's not easy. I'm not naive to that. But based on the player, the history, and that when you look at that sequence too, there's a lot going on there, and it's just kind of one of those things in the final moments of a game where he's doing everything he can, to try to get back on the defensive side of a player, and not allow another shot. I think that's the intent on that play. And, again, very unfortunate anytime somebody gets hurt, but just knowing Rusty, having coached against him for a number of years as well and seen it firsthand, he's the furthest thing from a dirty player.
On February 26th, join us to celebrate the 15th annual Penguins charity game on SportsNet Pittsburgh and purchase one of our charity bags. With the purchase of a gold bag this year, you are guaranteed to receive an autographed Penguins 2025-26 third jersey by one of the following: Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, Evgeni Malkin, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson, Bryan Rust, or Rickard Rakell. Plus, you'll receive this custom-framed 8x10 plaque honoring every 50-goal scorer in Pittsburgh Penguins history, celebrating one of the franchise's most elite achievements. Proceeds will benefit the Penguins Foundation and the Mario Lemieux Foundation. To see a complete list of the items available in each Penguins charity bag, log on to pittsburghpenguinsfoundation.org/charity game preview or scan the QR code on your screen.
Welcome back. Well, Coach, we mentioned the 3-2 victory over Vancouver to finish off that road trip Sunday night at Rogers Arena. When you look at that game, and I did a little bit of number research here, that's the 19th time this year you guys have held an opponent to 2 goals or less in a game. And I bring that up because I know you weren't here last year, but in 82 games for the Penguins last year, it only happened 21 times, which I think speaks to a group-wide commitment to team defense. Clearly, people are understanding the messaging, and it's working based on how things are going. But I know goaltending plays a huge role in that also. How do you kind of see that number from your perspective, just as far as the overall strong defensive play that has really taken another leap since that holiday break?
Yeah, I think overall it's gotten better as we've gone through the course of the year, and we still have some work to do on that front. We want to make sure that we're continuing to take steps in that area. I think it's not, when it comes to defensive play, I think there's a number of factors that are there. I think it's, one thing that we're working to continue to clean up is just not as many, in terms of the numbers against time and space situations, odd man rushes. A lot of that actually, that starts and that evolves in the offensive zone, though, just in terms of the positioning, your defenseman's gaps, but also, your forward positioning and being in a spot where you have the ability to work above and take away those opportunities, whether it's, them getting, rush opportunities with numbers, or, it can also be dangerous when you allow teams to have a lot of time and space as they enter the zone. And so we're getting better with that. We want to continue to take steps. I think on this road trip, I think especially I thought the Edmonton game might have been, one of our best of the year, if not the best, in terms of just the tracking and the reloads. And like you have to against a team, like that with that speed. And I think overall on the road trip though it was good. And there's. As we're moving forward, I think the D zone has gotten better this year. From kind of from the very start of the season till now, you've seen improvements, and so we want to make sure that, we want to. It's not just one side of the puck or the other. We want to make sure that we're continuously, working on and having everybody, committed, on both sides. And so I think guys have done a good job with that. They've shown that commitment, and it's gotten better, and we'll look to continue to improve it as we're moving forward. With
no Chris Letang, no Erik Karlsson for parts of the last week. I think it was 5 games without Erik Karlsson, 2 of the last 3 without Chris Letang. This group defensively really found their way. We highlighted the numbers earlier as far as just goals limited in game action, but as far as guys stepping up, I know Ryan Shea saw some power play time. Brett Kulak's had an increase in ice time. How do you feel these guys have handled not just managing, but maybe seizing this opportunity without, at the time, your 2 biggest guns on the back end available to you?
Yeah, I think they've done just that. They took advantage of it. That's what happens during the course of the year. And you never know when an opportunity is going to be there, whether it's the situation's always different, but a lot of times with injuries, it's always going to be like those minutes need to be filled, and then it gives players an opportunity to, we've had a number of it. We've had guys, if you look over the last month, maybe, some different defensemen that have started to kill penalties a little bit more and get involved that way. You've had other different defensemen that have been, involved in the power plays while those guys were out. And then there's lots of other situations. There's 6-on-5, 5-on-6, 4-on-4, overtime. And so, guys that, might not have been doing it as much during earlier in the year now have that opportunity. And it's a credit to them, I think they've felt prepared and ready to go when those opportunities have been there. And I think they've all done a really solid job with it.
I know that comes with player preparation, but there's coach preparation with that too. And one guy we haven't talked a ton about on this show this year, but I wanted to maybe give some flowers to at this moment, is Mike Stothers, who's a well-traveled, represented at the NHL and really coaching level professionally for the last 3-4 decades, essentially. But you brought him on your staff this year. He seems to be a guy that, in the little bit that we've been around him, it's hard to dislike anything about him. He's an upbeat guy, energetic guy, seems to bring out the best in people. And from a managing the defenseman perspective of your team, how do you feel like he's handled that role, and where do you feel like he's at right now?
No, he's done a great job, and I think you see it just in everything you just mentioned. All these guys that have kind of gone in and maybe taken different opportunities, different roles at different points, and like for them to go in there and be prepared. I think that's it's a credit to the players, but it's also a credit there to Stutz and just the work that he's done with them, and then working with them in game. As well, especially in those games where maybe they are taking on a little bit more than they have in the past, and making sure that they feel prepared and that they're confident in their abilities. And I think he's done a great job with that. So, Stutzy, I hadn't, prior to, as the hiring process here, I think maybe I met him once. The hockey world's a small world, though. He's a guy that I had multiple players that I'd either been coaching or had coached in the past, just conversations where they would bring him up, and they would just speak so highly of him and the impact that he had on them as players and as people. And so those conversations, that while they were in the past and just in passing at different points, always stuck with me. And so when we were going through the process here and finding out that he was looking to come back from his a couple of years that he had off, or a year that he had off, just in his fight with cancer, he was a guy I was really excited, number one, just to speak with about the position, and then thrilled when it all worked out for him to join us.
Here, we don't just watch the Penguins. We live every tipped puck.
Unbelievable.
Every battle.
Give me more of this.
Every new prospect.
This is a glimpse of the future.
Everything you love about the Pens, we do too.
I'm down here between the benches.
You know what that means, Pens fans?
Cheers for that.
The fuck did they score?
We manifested it.
Stream the Penguins all season long on SNP 360.
Welcome back. Well, we mentioned it already a few times, but what a trip for the Penguins through Western Canada and Seattle, and what a journey it must have been for Ben Kindel, the 18-year-old. He gets, first of all, the experience of playing in the NHL this year, but then he gets to go toe-to-toe with Connor McDavid in Edmonton after playing the night before in his old junior home in Calgary, returns to his hometown in Vancouver on Sunday, and caps that off with the second 2-goal game of his career. I mean, I'm sure you saw the videos of his family and everyone in the building, but from the perspective of coaching this guy and having that moment with him, what did you think of that one?
Yeah, it was incredible to see. I think the whole road trip. Seattle's not too far from Vancouver, so I know he had friends and family down for that. And then I think it's we were practicing there in Calgary. I think he had his, the guys he'd played juniors with. The front end of the practice were around the glass before they left for a road trip, and then. It's crazy when you think about it. You put it in perspective. It's like, these guys, junior teammates all there, and, he's junior age. And then you think about what he's been doing, for us, and the growth that he's also continued to show as he's moved through the course of his first year. And then to cap everything off there for him, just a really special moment for him and his family and friends. And, I think for anybody, to get to this point, to get to this level, you just think about how many people have been involved and how many people, helped him out along the way. And so for him to be able to share that moment with so many, family and friends, it's, I've never heard that number. It was like close to 200.
Yeah, it was insane. It was like 185 people.
It's a lot. But yeah, it's just a day he's going to remember, forever. And obviously thrilled that he had the game that he did, scoring the 2 goals and just playing a really, really strong game overall. And then, really happy that obviously that day got capped off for him and his family with a win. Just makes it even that much more special.
Yeah, so. we were joking on the broadcast that he's playing for free through the Olympic break based on how many people were in that suite for that game on Sunday.
I can't even imagine.
185.
It's wild.
It's a massive number. Another guy who's really jumped out, another young player for you guys, who is 6 years the senior to Ben Kindel, which sounds crazy because he's only 24 years old, is Egor Chinakhov. But obviously came on in the trade. He's moved his way up in your lineup since he's come on board. I wanted to ask you first about him before asking about his line, but points in 3 straight games. Looks like there might be an opportunity for him to see a little bit even more usage without Bryan Rust in the next 3. What do you make of how this guy is stepped forward as a Penguin?
He's done a great job, from coaching against him in the past, and then you learn even more about him, leading up to him getting or us trading for him. The shot, the release, that the speed are things that always just they popped off the page there when you watch it before and when you're coaching against him, and he's shown that. Like I think he's obviously like scoring early after you get traded. I think that always that can help a little bit. But I mean, you see it every day in practice too. I mean, the release is it's wild. It's unique, and it's the way it comes off of his stick. It's something. But he. The thing that, I didn't recognize maybe as much until, really starting to get to work together with him is his play away from the puck, his defensive play, his defensive responsibility has been outstanding. He's constantly tracking, he's working above, he's covering for defensemen, he's doing, all the right things, he changes at the right time. So there's a lot of detail there that, I think sometimes you get caught just watching the offensive side and the speed with a player like him. But his overall game has been really good. And so, he's been great. He's been a great addition. We're thrilled to have him. And, I really believe this guy's just going to keep getting better and better.
Dive a little bit deeper into his line. His centerman, Tommy Novak. I remember in the beginning of the year, Tommy was kind of not truly finding his spot in the lineup as you had broke out of camp with some lines that looked like they were going to stick before injuries hit and whatnot. And I remember you preaching that you felt like this was a guy that had more to offer, could bump up and play a bigger role with the team. And lo and behold, here we are here past game 50 now on the season. He's playing a major role on this team, centering Malkin and Chinakhov. What made you feel like he could be a good fit in that position? And how do you feel like he's kind of handled this jump and roll in ice time overall?
Yeah, very well, and it's Tommy. He's when you have that kind of versatility, it's just as a coach, it's great to have a guy that he can play either wing, he can play in the middle. He's been on the power play a lot this year. Then there's been some times where he hasn't been, but he's, I think you can, he can fit with a number of different types of lines, and I think he's a guy too who from a defensive standpoint, he probably doesn't get enough credit there for especially just the number of times that he's able to recover pucks. Just a really good defensive stick, good angles, puts himself into good spots there, and and I think he's also just some of the defensive anticipation that he has. It's at a high level, and I think those three have continuously just kind of gotten better. Like Tommy, he can do some things, especially when he's attacking, through the middle of the ice. Just that, he can find options. He can make those tight area plays, and he's also got a sneaky shot. He surprises. Sometimes I get surprised even in practice. Sometimes he gets it off, really quick, and it can be really dangerous. And so, while I think he looks to pass, and he can find guys, and he can make sometimes uncommon plays. Like he's also got a dangerous shot. So he's playing at the line's playing at a high level right now. They're doing a good job, and now I think it's also I think they can continue to take even more steps.
The third part of that line, of course, is a guy that's headed to the Hall of Fame one day, and Evgeni Malkin. But it appears he doesn't want to start that clock ticking anytime soon with how he's played this year. Goals in back-to-back games coming back here for Chicago on Thursday night. The thing that's jumped out more than anything is the consistency in his game this year. I think that's obvious. I believe only 9 times this year he hasn't gotten a point. But when you gauge him, and I know you've been asked about, you've seen him from the outside for so long now, you're seeing him as his head coach. But when you gauge him and kind of assess the goal scoring, the defensive connection, stopping and starting and not doing U-turns when he back checks and stuff like that, how do you assess this overall performance from Evgeni Malkin here in year number 20?
Yeah, it's crazy when you sit back and think it's year 20. It's absolutely amazing. With him, Tanger, and Sid, these guys playing at such a high level for so long, it's crazy. But I think Gino, and I think it goes along with this. I think all three of them, like, these guys love the game so much, and like it's they're just that passion for the game, the passion to compete, the passion for this organization. I mean, I think it's a big driving force, and you see it there in their play, and you see it there in their push and their want to win. And so, he's been great. It's been great working together with them. Great to see everything firsthand. Great to be on this side of it and not coaching against them. That's for sure. But I think it's he's a guy that just loves the game, loves being out there, and he wants to win.
Penguins well into the second half of the season, only a handful of games between them and the Olympic break. We'll talk about the approach and mindset going into that layoff when we come back and wind this thing down after this.
Inside Penguins Hockey is back.
Let's go eat sushi.
For an all-new season.
And now he's your best friend.
Yeah. Hitting a line in the water is always a joy for me.
Inside Penguins Hockey. New episodes every month on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by UPMC Health Plan.
Welcome back. Well, the Penguins now in this final stretch here before the Olympic break, just 5 games separating them. And it's kind of unique, Coach, because the team traveled back from Vancouver on Monday. You get a practice day Tuesday, and then Thursday comes along, and it's 5 games in 8 days, total sprint to the Olympic break. How do you guys handle just the schedule, but also the messaging and kind of what goes on behind closed doors to get ready for what's a pretty important stretch here before you guys take a 3-week hiatus?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes unique coming off when you're coming off a long road trip, and then like you have the travel day, and then it's just figuring out like what's going to be best in the schedule. Different times in the year and different knowing what's coming up next. You treat things sometimes a little bit different, but I think for us it was having a really heavy practice day right after getting off the road, and then a day off, and then you're right into it. And so you're trying to find the right days for that rest, because the rest is extremely important, no matter what during the course of the season. But just making sure the guys get that, and and then I think the messaging is just making sure that it's the same thing we've been saying all year, but it's like just continuing to make sure that we're taking advantage of every day, of every pre-game skate, of every opportunity that we have to be on the ice, practice, and then most importantly making sure that we're doing everything we can to both prepare and be ready to go, because every game has a ton of meaning right now, and every point matters, and so we have to continue to just scratch and claw and do everything we possibly can to get points, and to also make sure that we're doing everything we can to continue to take steps in our team game, in our overall game, and just continuing to make strides in those areas.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. I know that the break is coming, and I wish you all the best for whatever your plans are. I'm sure you'll be watching United States teams, I should say, men and women over in Italy. Hopefully they can bring home a couple gold medals. But in any event, next time we talk will be after the Olympics. So enjoy the break. Good luck the rest of the way until we get there, and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. You enjoyed as well.